Corbusier, who had never done anything rough before then, when the shuttering was struck, and his office saw this imprint of wood grain over all, they were sort of alarmed that he would be horrified by it, but he wasn't at all. And again, it's a sort of generosity, and a sort of somehow, well, generosity, isn't it? And again, you'd say, you know, I mean, you only have to go to the National Theatre to see how that becomes a real manner. It becomes a sort of an aspect of in English modern architecture, with Lassen's in particular. I mean, buildings everywhere, but you know, I suppose you think of the National Theatre most obviously. Forget what I was saying. Pilotti, that's right. So if you were looking for candidates, you know, for what was the most Corbusian scheme in England, this one I think would be, you know, this looks more like it, doesn't it? You know, and you can Observer's book out, you could spot this. Yeah, nice clear slabs. So that's Hallfield, which has a slightly mysterious provenance. I don't know how much Lebeck worked on it, but it's at the point when Lebeck is sort of shifting in his relationship with regard to Tecton, Lasden and Drake. So I always think it looks very Lebeckian, but anyway, whatever. But just to say that you can see a very definite mark there of this scheme finished in the 40s or the very, very early 50s. Yeah, a very, very early scheme, and I always think it's a terrifically handsome scheme. Peter Banham wrote a terrific article on this called Facade in Architectural Review, where he argued that this very muscular modelling of the facade was to hide the inevitable clotheslines and close out the dryer, you know, so not to spoil the architecture. I don't know. But a very lovely, again, wonderful bit of writing. Alright, so in other schemes, well, high and low, this one going up the Hackney Road, again, you know, they look a bit like Unite, Pilotti, and a lot of these places did have had roof facilities. Lebeck and Hallfield had roof facilities. Had in particular both here and at Percy Circus, the Tecton schemes both had spaces where clothes would be hung out to dry, with beautiful aerofoil forms, which you can see in the sectional drawings. And also, I mean, there are quite a lot of buildings that do have. There's one in Stratford that keeps popping up as the camera pans round on the Olympic site. There's one at the bottom of Carpenter's Road that's supposed to have a swimming bath on the top of it. But so just to say again, the great man's influence, you know. And that's another mannerism, you know, you just have to think for a minute it is, that you know, to put a garden on the roof is to turn something upside down, which is sort of what mannerist does. Then, you know, let's try it the other way up, you know. It's sort of what Michelangelo does. But I suspect there is, anyway, so there's all those roof facilities. This is the Alton estate, which doesn't have, and Pilotti, so just to say, there's those things that have Pilotti. And I was looking at this is Sandy Wilson, another block in Hackney, again on Pilotti, and this is in AJ, I think, Architecture Today. And I suddenly spotted this strange thing, which is Sandy Wilson's submission to the This Is Tomorrow exhibition. I was sort of surprised by it. I was really quite surprised by it. because it suddenly made me think, well, that's something about that structural form. Although the blocks don't have roof gardens, this building has this wonderful sculptural thing dropped down on top of it. Nigel Coates calls it the nun's hat, and there's sort of a roof garden there, but you know, one sort of thinks probably this great sculptural thing floating on top of the tower block is not so much a roof garden as just as its sculptural form is its primary reason for being, for coming into being, you know. And it's something that I think it is difficult to find precedents for, certainly in Corbusier. I mean, this is the model of the Governor's Palace, which never got built, which is sort of after the Golden Lane estate. And this is the open hand monument, which he certainly is sketching in the late 40s and early 50s. But I think this is the most remarkable thing about the estate. This lovely thing. I think it's to my feeling, the best thing sitting on any modern building anywhere in London. I think that's absolutely true. It's sort of like sometimes, you know, it's a bit like a guardian angel, really, in a funny sort of way. You know, you sort of think. This thing is sitting on the estate. I did this little exercise. I took the Golden Lane estate and the estate of the Marseille Unité and laid them over one another at the same scale, and they're not far off. They're not far off. You know, the Golden Lane estate is a little bit smaller than the site in Marseille. And this is the Golden Lane North Point, and this is the Marseille North Point. That's the Unité sitting on it. And you know, I mean, it's a sort of, it's just a joke in a way, or is it? But I just put this Unité, you know, you can put the Unité on this, you know, you can get 4 elephants in a mini, and you know, you can sort of, but you can put the Unité on this, you know. I mean, it's obviously silly to second guess a sort of great genius, you know. And just to point out, Corb's idea about a great building was very, very heavily influenced by ocean liners. He designed advertisements for ocean liners at an early stage in his career. So this thing has to tie onto the ordinate, has to tie on to the point north. So again, something which the Golden Lane doesn't do. So that these double-loaded blocks will get equal sunshine. One will get morning, one will get afternoon sun. Inequality, egalite. Again, that's a big difference I forgot to say. But with the Unité, you do get this thing about, it's a double-faced building. You get dwellings pointing both ways. And the Golden Lane blocks, typically a lot of English housing schemes, only points to one way. All right, so that's it. But so that's just a suggestion. But here's another. I've got the wrong PowerPoint. I've got the wrong version up.
Oh no! You're going to have to freestyle.
I think I can keep going.
It's weird though.
Trying to get the other version up.
Well, I think we do. He was very, very conscious about aerial warfare. He writes a book on aircraft and has a very vivid description about really the pleasures of setting off before dawn and flying over a city and bombing it. You know, this is actually what he says in aircraft. You know, steady on, steady on. You know, but he's truly, truly excited by that. And he does this he does this diagram in La Vie Aérienne, the aerial war, where he shows that the traditional street pattern, you know, doesn't stand a chance, you know. A bomb, wherever the bombs go, it's going to kill and maim, you know. But with the lovely Ville Radieuse, you know, it will kill a few trees, you know, and destroy a few tennis courts. But, you know, with protection, there's armour plating on top of the block, boing, you know. It's quite a salesman. And, you know, remember that when this was built, this is what was happening between here and St Paul's. It was just wasteland, bomb sites. And Corbusier would have spotted that. Corbusier would have spotted that. I mean, Frank tells a story Frank Wood tells a story about Chamberlain Pallenbon being offered with a sort of sweep of the hand the Barbican site, 25 acres to develop. But you can see somehow or other with Corbusier, that whole sort of thing about the war in the air, these bomb sites, you would definitely have thought, you know, this was fate. They'd come to meet him halfway. And he was into big. He liked to build big buildings, you know. He liked to build big buildings. Well, just to really go back to that, so with this one unité sitting on the Golden Lane side, it was built for 360 flats. There's 473 flats on the Golden Lane estate, but they're very small. These are 3-bedroom. These are all 3-bedroom, double-level maisonette flats in the unité. So I'm absolutely sure that the amount of accommodation in that block is more than the accommodation of the Golden Lane all added together. In addition, on the roof you could have accommodated a primary school, of course. And you could also had a row of shops and a little hotel. So it's sort of quite interesting to think that with this whole unité, the whole programme of Golden Lane could have been sucked up into it. This is Cole's most beautiful plan, in my opinion. This is his most beautiful plan for an urban proposition. But if you look at it, really, landscaping really is, you know, I mean, I call this second-year landscaping. You know, which is sort of we've all seen it, you know, and always sort of immediately thought, what can I say about that? You know, the mind goes blank. But you know, it's nice enough, and in a picturesque sense, it is truly a beautiful drawing, I think, really. But you can see that Corbusier is only happy when he can make people move in a very, very prescribed way, you know, running around in circles or swimming up and down, you know, like a part in a machine, really. You know, and I think it's reasonable to say that he doesn't have much other idea beyond that with regard to landscaping, urbanscaping. I think it's absolutely true. This is Chamberlain Pallenbon, built at the same time as Golden Lane, very, very beautiful primary school in the Old Brompton Road, which is walled round, and you look at it through slits. Where somebody here attended as a child, and you can see that this is much more like, well, Finland, isn't it? You think of Alto when you think of this. This is like somehow something just sort of emerging out of the forest, which they then put a wall round to protect this fiction from the rest of the city. So just to say that equally, I think it's reason to say that Chamberlain Pallenbon didn't have firm ideas beyond something like this, quoting from a Scandinavian woodland. Corb does this frenetic pattern making in bill radios, and which he